From the North to Zeus 2 at the end of last year to the Zeus Pro North not long ago. It always gives a sense of luxury on high-end routes. Rich modular design, removable face shell, strong attributes. The adjustment function and the refined interior workmanship are impressive. Of course, the price is also very top-notch. However, in the past 2 days, I have received another handle from Beitong. Sparta 3, the name of Sparta. It must be another God of War level luxury model. However, when unpacking, what about the expansion button of the 7788 module? However, when I saw the price again, the pre-sale price was $589. Oh, could it be that the Spartan God of War actually refers to the God of War of 100 yuan? Beitong Sparta 3 can be said to be completely different from Sparta 2 in appearance. On the contrary, it is more like a plastic shell like Zeus 2. Looks removable. But in fact, it doesn't mean that you don't want to do it at least. The kind that can be removed with a face shell. In any case, it is also a double-layer design. The interior is rose gold covered with chip texture. The exterior is a gradient from white to transparent. It is the same as this freshly brewed iced latte. The entire fuselage shell is snap-on with no exposed screw holes. This is both aesthetics and grip feel. All of them are a plus. The controller supports PC, NS, Android, and TV. Also use NS to wake up the action key, which uses the Xbox layout functional buttons. The Lianfa button and the Shift button are combined with the Beitong button on one panel. Although this design is not very common, the location is reasonable. When pressed, they do not interfere with each other. The side of the grip is equipped with a non-slip pattern, and the texture is also very detailed. In addition to the 2 expansion buttons of M1 M2 on the back, there is also a receiver storage compartment. This design is still very intimate. After all, many handles do not have receivers, storage compartments. I don't know how everyone feels about the appearance of this ice iron. In other words, how many points can the students score? In terms of feel, the optical axis buff action button is omitted. The cross arrow keys and 2 function buttons both use conductive glue schemes. Although it is conductive glue, but the action button, it is still light and crisp under pressure. It was very comfortable. The cross button feels a little soft. The 3 buttons on the same panel are all pot slice buttons. This key adopts the scheme of light speed switch. The trigger key is linear, and the pressing pressure is also lighter. The 2 expansion buttons on the back are very commendable. The location is very reasonable. The mechanical switch used is relatively large under pressure. Triggering requires subconsciously using force, so it is not easy to touch it by mistake in this position. In terms of weight, with the receiver it is 225 grams. Overall, whether it is the grip feel or the press feel, it is very comfortable. Let's take a look at the controller test D-pad creation aspect. Because my machine is a test version, there is still a problem with creation. This question has been fed back to Beitong RD. However, it said that the bulk goods have solved this problem. So there is no need to worry. Let's take a look at the tuning of the joystick. The algorithm of the joystick this time also adopts Beitong's previous more mature scheme. There is no real anti-physique to die, and adopts the default non-dead form. The center point is very silky. Observing the changes in coordinate points after zooming in is also very silky. The death error rate of foreign propaganda is 0.2%. It is more accurate than the 0.3% of Zeus 2. There are still some problems with the handling of the class. 121 was built on and rode, bringing the building value to 13. It shows that the change in its established value is not a phenomenon value. There is also a little resistance to the bottom. It still has a relatively large impact on racing games. This is also an issue with the test version. Beitong said it would solve it in the next firmware upgrade. This time, the handle assistant of the 48R3 still retains all the changes similar to the waist bar def. Basic functions such as brightness adjustment, key mapping, and light and vibration adjustment. But the overclocking algorithm like the previous one can't be opened. Therefore, the return rate test results of the joystick are relatively ordinary. The return rate is above 400 Hz in the wired state, above 100 Hz in the receiver state. This seems to be almost meaningful. Next, it's time for the dismantling of the Shimon music industry. Because Beitong's previous internal workmanship performance was very good. So this time, I still started dismantling with a relaxed and peaceful mind. The first is the battery, which is still protected by a special battery compartment this time. The battery does not use any double-sided tape, and the back shell is buffered with bubble sensitivity. The fixed battery has a capacity of 600 mAh and the capacity is decent. Fortunately, there is no other RGB on the handle except for the logo key. The battery life is still okay for more than 10 hours. Manda and TV cables also use socket solutions. The stitches of the joystick are made very connected. Banky is Holt's induction. But this time there is no Banky motor to the waste pole. It uses an empty carbon film waste bar. Generally speaking, the overall internal workmanship of Beitong 48R3 is still very neat, although it doesn't have the feeling of using gorgeous materials before. But for a mild version, basically everything you need is there. Beitong gave up the luxurious stacking configuration this time, focusing on smooth, practical and lightweight buttons, feel and lighter weight. Also suitable for players with low hand strength. For NS players, the one-click wake-up function is also a surprise. In general, in terms of positioning, it is still more inclined to light players and controller novices. If you don't need a lot of backspill expansion buttons, or additional functions such as trigger vibration, just want to buy a fully functional one. Handle for multi-platform. Simply play for a while if you play the game, then Beitong 48R3 for less than 200 yuan is still very good.
You